The body camera footage crackles to life. Flashlights cut through the dark library. Agents move slowly, voices low. Then one of them freezes. There's something behind this wall. A panel shifts. Cold air rushes out like a breath held for decades. The room goes silent, not because of what they saw, but because of what it meant. Something ancient, something sealed, something that should have stayed buried. What exactly did Gene Hackman spend his life guarding 312 feet beneath his Santa Fe estate? And why has no one opened that final door? The call, February 26, 2025, a cold high-desert morning. Federal agents arrived at the sprawling Hackman property expecting routine paperwork. An elderly Hollywood legend and his wife. Found dead, natural causes, case closed before it even opened. But the front door was unlocked. Pills scattered across the bathroom counter like forgotten confetti. One dog dead in a closet. Two others still wandering the grounds, eyes wide, unsettled, routine, sad, unremarkable, until the estate wasn't just a home, it was a fortress disguised as one. 23 acres of dense forest. 12-foot stone walls, reinforced gates, motion sensors, and thermal cameras with no blind spots. Security consultant Richard Castagnano, who had protected diplomats and defense contractors, reviewed the files in 2019 and thought there was a mistake. This wasn't celebrity paranoia, he later said. This was government-grade infrastructure hidden in plain sight, the construction. Contractor Michael Rise had built foundations across Santa Fe for 30 years. He knew concrete. When he was called to the Hackman property in the early 2000s, he expected luxury. What he found was something else. 18-inch thick walls in the lower levels, Rise recalled, his voice dropping. That's not a wine cellar. That's bunker grade. I asked what it was for. They said storage. You don't build storage to survive a bomb. He was paid triple, signed a 20-year and that agreement expired in 2024, 1 year before the deaths. Ray's only worked one section. Other specialists handled the deeper work. He was told those lower levels didn't exist. They told him that more than once. The discovery. Forensic photographer Dr. Patricia Okonkwo had documented cartel massacres and mass graves. She thought she had seen everything. When she stepped inside the mansion that February morning, the house looked normal. Too normal. Furniture had been moved recently. Ghost marks in the carpet. Scuff patterns that didn't match two elderly people with limited mobility. Documents in the study sorted and hastily replaced. Someone had been searching or hiding then in the private library. Her hand brushed mahogany paneling. One section sounded different. Hollow, she pressed. A seam appeared. The panel slid open with eerie precision. A narrow passageway spiraled downward into darkness. Steps worn smooth by decades of use. The air rising from below was cold, damp, and carried the scent of long-sealed stone. Fresh electrical conduits ran along the walls. Someone had been maintaining this path. Dr. Okonkwo stood at the top for a full minute. My body was telling me something my training had no category for. She went down anyway. The descent took nearly 15 minutes. 312 feet below the library floor, the staircase opened into a vault, 40 by 60 feet, arched ceilings in the style of late 19th century Spanish colonial work. But the land's history was stranger. Historian Dr. Elena Vasquez had traced the property. 7 ownership changes between 1920 and 1965. Shell companies, anonymous trusts, vague records designed to erase trails. Geological surveys in the late 1940s, all incomplete. One surveyor died in a car accident weeks after his last visit. The chamber held 47 wooden crates, dust layered thick from decades. But near several crates, the dust was disturbed. Recent footprints. Inside one crate, a leather-bound ledger from 1947. Pages filled with names, dates, and figures, all in German. Another held 63 yellowed photographs. Men in unfamiliar military uniforms. Gatherings in dim rooms. Locations analysts still cannot identify. Faces deliberately cut out with surgical precision. One photo showed men standing at what appeared to be the tunnel entrance, 2 faces missing entirely. The symbols. Dr. Okonkwo's flashlight swept the far wall. She dropped her camera. Hundreds of symbols covered the stone floor to ceiling. Precise, dense. Some resembled medieval alchemy. Others looked like technical schematics from a future no one in the 19th century should have understood. A few matched nothing on record. Astrophysicist Dr. Marcus Webb studied the photos for 3 weeks. Certain patterns align with stellar positions from 12,000 years ago, he said quietly. Or 12,000 years from now. The orbital mechanics are too advanced for the era. 3 theories emerged: an eccentric millionaire's obsession, an encoded message for insiders only, or something older knowledge passed through generations by custodians who understood truths the world was never meant to know. The symbols weren't at the worst part, the door, at the far end of the vault. Behind collapsed crates stood an iron door, 8 feet tall, 4 inches thick, rusted, no handle, only a heavy locking mechanism built to stay closed forever. One agent speaking anonymously. We thought we understood the place. Then we saw the door and everyone went quiet. It felt like it had been waiting longer than any of us had been alive. Thermal imaging showed airflow on the other side. Active movement. The space continued deeper, much deeper. The iron door remains sealed. No official explanation why it hasn't been opened. The FBI declines comment. Statements carefully worded to say nothing. The neighbors. Maria Sandoval lived next door for 15 years. One night in 2017, her dog woke her at 2 a.m. She stepped outside and heard a deep mechanical hum rising from underground. It lasted 20 minutes, then stopped. Other neighbors reported unexplained vibrations, nighttime trucks with no visible cargo, power fluctuations traced to the property. Some saw Gene Hackman standing motionless on the grounds in the early hours, staring at the exact spot where the tunnel entrance was later found. Former staff members have vanished from records. Researchers who dug too deep stopped returning calls the final weeks. Betsy Arakawa died around February 3rd. Her body remained undiscovered for nearly 3 weeks in a compound with elite surveillance, internal cameras corrupted. Only external footage survived, lights moving room to room in strange patterns. Someone was still navigating the house. Hackman's official cause, cardiovascular disease with Alzheimer's as a contributing factor. But forensic details suggest he spent his final days reorganizing documents, controlling the narrative, protecting what lay below. Why did the sophisticated internal security fail exactly when it mattered most? What they guarded. The tunnel predates Hackman's ownership by at least 70 years. He didn't discover it by accident. Investigative sources believe he bought the property deliberately to become its guardian, a wealthy, respected figure who could maintain silence while the world saw only a reclusive actor. The 47 crates are in federal custody. The German ledger has never been publicly acknowledged. The cutout faces remain unidentified. The symbols stay undeciphered. And the property? Transfer paperwork already filed to an anonymous Cayman Islands trust, a faceless buyer moving fast while the investigation is still active. Every FOIA request denied, ongoing investigation. Into natural causes, the deeper question. Think about what was built here. Not just walls and cameras. A security apparatus rivaling diplomatic compounds, staff bound by lifelong DOS. Contractors sworn to secrecy about levels that didn't exist. This wasn't hiding from paparazzi. This was guarding something. Something that required blast-resistant doors. Something with airflow still moving far below thermal reach. Something whose architects needed a public face like Gene Hackman to keep the surface world from asking the right questions. Who built the original tunnel? Who wrote the 1947 ledger? Whose faces were erased from history? Why does the iron door stay sealed even now? The evidence doesn't suggest a mystery, it confirms one. The tunnel exists, the chamber exists. The symbols exist, the airflow exists. These are documented findings from a federal response the government refuses to discuss openly. In his final days, with Alzheimer's closing in and his wife already gone, Hackman was doing what guardians do when time runs out, making sure the wrong people never reached what waited 312 feet below his library floor. The iron door is still closed. The new owners want access immediately. The airflow continues in the darkness beyond. What happens when that door finally opens? We may soon find out. What do you think was sealed behind it? Ancient knowledge? Something far more dangerous? Drop your theory in the comments. If you want more stories that pull back the curtain on hidden histories, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The desert holds its secrets tight, but not forever.